Divorced men. What moment made you realize it's time for a divorce? When my buddies approached me to complain that she kept sitting on their laps, wiggling and hoping for a reaction. You have some good buddies, man. Super awkward when your buddy's wife is finding any excuse to touch or rub you. If you say something, you risk causing a fight or him not believing you. If you say nothing, you're a bad person. I was a lance corporal bringing home scraps for a paycheck to an unemployed wife who one day brought home a brand new Lexus IS 350 because she got a good deal on it. Apparently, I was supposed to pay the $800 a month bill. I didn't think it was a good deal. My friend got a pretty substantial year-end bonus from work. He decided to use most of it for his wife's Christmas gift and pay off her remaining student loans, about $15,000, and the remaining portion to buy a new computer chair for when he gamed, about $300. Christmas morning, he was nice enough to let me stay at his place when I traveled for work. As he lived 20 minutes from the airport, we all woke up and had breakfast. His family and her parents came over and we started exchanging gifts. Besides paying for her loans, he had gotten her a few items. She opened the card saying her loans were paid off and she just sat there for a minute. After the silence, and assuming she was kind of in shock, she asked, "Did you seriously not get me anything else? I brought you that stupid keyboard." She got him the wrong one, by the way. "And you only got me a few things?" At that point, his brother-in-law and myself decided to hang out in another room for a while they ended up getting into a huge fight. A day later, when he was dropping me off at the airport, he told me he was going to visit a lawyer and get a divorce. I'd been seeing a girl for 6 months. I knew she was unstable and explosive, but I was in love with her good side and also kind of an idiot. She convinced me to move in with her, then convinces me we need a new kitchen, a new bathroom, a new couch, new TV, and she also needs a driver's license. Since she was permanently broke, I paid for it all like a good boyfriend does. Then I broke my leg. She took care of me for a few days, then said I could do my own grocery shopping and make my own dinner since she wasn't my mother. Mind you, we lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment building and there was no elevator, while I was up to my knee in cast. The week after, she went out with friends most nights of the week using my car and told me to do all of the groceries. When I didn't, she yelled at me that I was just leeching off her and that I was a lazy, worthless sack of crap just laying there on the couch that I bought, and that she always had to do everything and never got her anything. I turned down the TV that I brought, and for the first time since we'd met, I just gave in and let the hate flow through me, and blasted her with every B-word thing she did, just yelling from the couch, but it felt great letting it all out. She then kicked me out for insulting her and told me she'd been banging a dude from work all week anyway. Well, the losses up until that point suck, but it seems like you might have dodged a bullet in the long term there. Hope you got all your furniture back. When she falsely told our marriage counselor that I punched her. The next week, she denied saying it and accused our counselor of lying. He gave me a, "You should leave this relationship" look. I took that look as permission from a professional that I definitely wasn't making the wrong decision. Got divorced and never looked back. I legitimately feared for my safety toward the end. Not that she'd hurt me, but that she would make a false accusation to the cops or a crazy friend. She let me know she was pregnant and wanted my permission to tell all of her girlfriends during a girls' night out. Since I knew there was no possible way it was my child, she was also unknowingly admitting to having an affair. I can math, she can't. It was with her boss. We were at a point in our relationship where we were fighting all the time, so I just slept in the guest bedroom, so I wouldn't have to hear her screeching. But for some reason, on Father's Day, that's how I remembered the exact date, she came upstairs and basically forced herself on me. When she told me, "We're pregnant, I want to tell all my friends, oh joy," I asked her when the doctor expected her due date. Then I did the math. 7.5 months does not a baby make. Finally got a prenatal paternity test out of her. I think she still believed she'd ninja'd my baby inside of her, and the truth came out and I finally just told her, "Just tell me the truth, we can work through anything." Then she fessed up. My lie was that I was going to work through anything. I'd already had divorce proceedings in the works. Lawyered up the next day and he ate her alive in court. I got primary custody of our child we already had and child support and a sheriff's notice that she had to vacate my home in 30 days. I never knew she could be that stupid. I realized when a friend's wife said to me, "You know, your wife is sleeping with my husband, right?" I mean, that's a pickup line if ever I knew one. I mean, we might as well. I knew mine was over the morning I saw a picture of some guy's eggplant on her phone. She was classy enough to bring him to the divorce proceedings. Your Honor, I would like to present Exhibit D into evidence. When she staged a robbery of our house so she could fence off all of my stuff for smack money. When my stepdaughter became a teenager, my ex ramped up the nutso. She had always been an impatient, angry screamer of a parent, but as my stepdaughter became a young woman, my ex just went crazy with envy or something. I know lots of mums have a hard time with teenage daughters, but their base-level patience is so much better than my ex's was. Threats of cutting the daughter's hair in the middle of the night while she slept, pulling hair, slapping face, ridiculing her in front of her friends, swinging something that missed, and putting a hole in the wall. I was out, and I took the kids with me. My wife was around less and less. Had to be free to live her life, go out with her friends. More often than not, she would call me to pick up our daughter from daycare, after promising to pick her up and have some girl time with her. She'd say to just tell the daughter she was working late or not feeling very well. She always had something better to do, and the kids were old enough to know better. I went to pick up our daughter one day, and when they called her name, she came running over until she saw it wasn't Mum, again, and slumped her shoulders and slowly walked over to ask, "What's her excuse this time?" That was the breaking point. I told her to get out, and even helped pay her security deposit to get her out. This one hits close to home with me. My dad and mom were never married, and I was 2 when they broke up, but my mom was supposed to be there for me. She would make all sorts of promises to come hang out with me and pick me up and do things, but 9 times out of 10, she wouldn't show. I remember getting excited if she showed up for one of my birthdays. How sad is that? She should have been there regardless. She always had these dumb excuses as to why she couldn't come. It broke my heart. My mom has been dead for 3 years now. I'm 22, and all I can think about when I think of her is I hope I never damage a child the way she damaged me. Tell your daughter some internet stranger sends her empathetic love. My wife made me watch Oprah, which was grounds enough, but there was also a quiz. It was an is your marriage okay or not kind of thing. In my head, I saw 7 or 10 items that were not okay. My wife didn't see any. We'd already been to counseling. Question 1. Does your husband enjoy watching Oprah? Her? Well, of course, he's sitting right here with me. Him? I wonder if I can accidentally pour bleach in my eyes. I was working on a mother-daughter scrapbook as a Christmas present for her. Was going through her Google Photos account looking for pictures of them together. I came across a selfie she took of some guy lying on top of her. Confirmed her second affair. I knew it was over the moment I saw it. That has messed me up pretty good. We flew across the country for her sister's wedding. She didn't say a word to me the entire time since we'd parked at the airport. Once we landed at our destination, we walked to baggage claim, absolute silence proceeding for several hours now. At the carousel, I picked up her bag when she took it out of my hands and calmly stated, "None of my family knows you're here." I told them I came alone. She walked out of the airport and left me there. Narcissistic personality disorder made for some really fun scenarios. During the last year and a half of our marriage, she became extremely psychologically manipulative. She was a narcissist, controlled my every move, would isolate me, refused physical contact. I was just an extension of her life. Was not allowed to talk to any woman and was not allowed to hang out with any friends or should just ignore me for up to 5 days at a time. Double standards everywhere. Verbal attacks, and the list can continue, but it hurts to think about. The last straw for me was when she threatened to kill me because I came home from work late, even though she knew I'd be home late. It was just a little too late for her, and she also threatened to hit me the same day. This was the second time this happened, and I talked with several people at work about it, and they suggested that I run. I had texts of the threats on my phone and contacted a lawyer that same week. She agreed to sign since I told her I would take severe legal action if she didn't. Thankfully, no children, and it was a clean divorce, and now I'm happily divorced. Yeah, look, I know that in some cases, divorce is rated as a highly stressful life event, immediately behind deaths in one's close family. But it doesn't always have to be that way. Unfortunately, it's probably only a good life event when it follows several years of extreme hardship. When she presented a picture of our 4-year-old daughter and me lying next to each other on the couch watching Blue's Clues to our marriage counselor as evidence of my inappropriate conduct around our kids, thank God he saw right through that bullcrap immediately and told her to knock it off. We've been divorced almost 5 years now. The process isn't fair, but that really wasn't my ex's fault. No allegations of inappropriate behavior with my kids or misconduct were brought up against me during the proceedings, so that was all good. They wouldn't have flown for a minute in court anyway. Our kids are older now, and every day are becoming better equipped to see and understand the difference between what's reasonable and right and what's simply just bat crap insane. And it's not working out all that well for their mother, who hasn't changed her MO much, if at all, since we parted ways. So it goes. I'm happily remarried now with a woman with kids of her own. Kids who were friends and schoolmates of my kids before she and I even got to know each other. They're all our kids now. Life is good. No more shenanigans. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below, and subscribe. I had a friend who went through this, and there were so many lies leveled at him. At one stage, even his computer was seized by police after she alleged he had inappropriate material featuring children on it. It was so demoralizing. The only way he could see his kids was through supervised visits. A couple of things were in his favor, though. The staff where he had to go and see his kids could tell he was genuine. He never once reacted to his ex either, which showed his character. He'd completely lose his crap when it was just me and him, though, understandably. About 6 months in, the police returned his computer and found nothing, obviously. This was a major turning point for his case. His behavior throughout was spotless. He's actually a really gentle and caring guy. Meanwhile, his ex was racking up DUI charges, which also helped. That was around 4 years ago now. He's had sole custody ever since. Remarried to a nice girl who's their mom now. The ex just lost interest, which is sad, but good that she's not interfering also. I used to love doing chores for her because she loved being taken care of. When she stopped noticing, it started hurting. Then one day, I made a bench for our entryway out of barnwood. Took about 40 hours of work. She walked in the house after work that day and set her purse on it and proceeded to start the fight, where she told me that she was mad she got married to me. She stormed out of the house grabbing her purse. Never noticed the bench was there. I knew then, but I think she already knew. When my 2-year-old was learning to walk, he would constantly say another guy's name. Apparently, he was there from the moment I left for work until I got home. Single dad for 5 years with primary custody now. Finding her on Christmas Eve, still sending racy messages to a co-worker whom she claimed she was no longer in contact with, having been busted doing this to him previously. I cleared out of there like a blackjack dealer. When I, as the only earner in the house, was denied buying a new pair of work boots in December because she needed the money to buy vaccines for the puppies. She bred dogs as a hobby. I was a framing carpenter in Ohio. My current work boots were toast. Holes in both, no soles. I needed them. Her puppy vaccine story was bullcrap, by the way. Her hobby was dogs, but she was a pro at popping pills. That's what she needed the money for. I was done with her by March. When, after being in Afghanistan for 8 months, from May of 02 to November of 02, she was missing. She had my car. I found 2 random women with kids and pets living in the apartment I paid for. The electricity cut off, no money in my bank account, and a pay advance authorized by my commander, and a friend telling me to go easy on her because she was 5 months pregnant with his kid. Oh, and he'd had heart surgery to remove some kind of cyst from his heart just before I left. He was 23, had a pacemaker, and basically half a heart. If I scared him, he could die. I'd say that was the moment I realized. I hope you snuck up behind him and popped an inflated paper bag real aggressive-like. I found out she had cheated on me, and upon me confronting her to discuss it, she manipulated me into thinking she was about to take her own life. Then she admitted the manipulation. I was done. She may have once been a nice person, but that's all gone now. Forgot to mention that I found out because she had left her Facebook open with a conversation about her pregnancy scares with her friend. We hadn't done the deed in a bit more than a month. When she moved out while I was camping with 2 of our sons, and there was no discussion of whether her leaving was permanent or potentially temporary in her view. My neighbor's wife screaming "Putain" downstairs after she caught my bride and her husband screwing in front of the fireplace. This happened to one of my parents' friends. Both couples did a swap and are now happily married. My dad cheated on my mom when I was 12. A couple of weeks after she kicked him out, my mom started dating my dad's girlfriend's husband. I hated all of them. Not my wife, but my fiancé. I just called it off because we were house hunting and she kept wanting to look at houses that would accommodate an extra permanent guest, her estranged father who she was wanting to reinitiate ties with, but she wouldn't admit she was doing this. I found out from a buddy that she was wanting me to lay out the money for the down payment and then was going to break it off herself and fight like hell to keep the house. 2 years down the drain, but a lifetime of fortunate near miss. When I saw the text to her lover that said something to the effect of, "I miss your eggplant in my butt," and "I had some fun in the gym shower thinking of you," B-word never sent me texts like that in 10 years of marriage. I still have the text saved somewhere in the divorce file. This was not the first affair, but it was the one that finished it for me. I endured a physically, emotionally, and mentally taxing relationship for over 6 years with my first wife, 4 of which we were married for. There were many, many instances that should have caused our marriage's demise. The proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, though, was 8 days after I had major oral surgery. Due to a freak medical occurrence, I had to have 28 teeth cut out and 2 holes drilled into my sinus cavities from top of the back of my gums. She and I were in a grocery store parking lot and I asked her not to start an argument in the store because it's a small town and I was so tired of being those people. Her reaction was to backhand me in the mouth 6 times. Or at least I counted 6 times because I'm pretty darn sure I lost consciousness. I just remember waking up when we were pulling into our driveway while she's freaking out because my face is against the window and blood is coming from my mouth like a fountain. From those of you wondering why I picked a forum from the perspective of the husbands rather than both the spouses, let me just say I don't enjoy reading stories like the last one, and they are a lot more prevalent from the wife's perspective, sadly. So try to view it less as cherry-picking and more trying not to get too dispirited with my work. This video should not be taken as an indication that women are more awful than men in these situations. When she said, "You didn't pray hard enough and that's why our son has cancer. That's why I'm sleeping with my prayer partner," that woman takes the cake for queen of rationalizations. This is the first one that made me look up and mouth, "What the frick?" I was at work and got a call from my grandparents that she had shot our dog Zoe that was laying on the bed with her. We were separated before that for other reasons, but that's when I ponied up a few grand and went to an attorney to file. I really miss her. The dog, I mean. I left for work at 6 a.m. and forgot to unplug the toaster. When I arrived home at 6 p.m., I was given the "everything you've ever done to tee me off" speech, just for leaving the toaster plugged in. I asked her what she did all day that prevented her from unplugging it herself. Another long speech about why I'm the butthole. I said something to the effect of, "Quit acting like your fricking mother." She threw the cat at me. A cat. She threw a fricking cat at me. Scuba Steve went on to live with me after the official separation and divorce. Our marriage ended after our daughter at 3 years old told us to stop yelling. When she asks me to take the kids on some errands, has kept me celibate for months, saying she just doesn't want to do the deed with anyone anymore, and once I leave, invites some guy over to tongue lash her for 45 minutes, and then drop a load inside her in the bedroom without using protection. All on the day before Father's Day. Thanks, Amy. Not divorced yet, this happened last week. Her life is in such a shambles, I'm not even mad. I was on deployment and she yelled at me for interrupting her family's celebration when I called on Christmas. The first time I thought it, I was working late and the daycare calls and asked if I'm picking my kids up. I left work to go get them, and when I got home, she was gone. Didn't hear anything from her for 2 weeks. For the second time, I'd bailed the house out of foreclosure 3 times because she wouldn't pay the bills, even though there was money in the accounts to cover it. I closed the account, handed her cash for the mortgage, packed a bag with my kids, and left. We had a trial separation and lived apart for a month. During this time, I vented off some of my frustrations to one of my best friends. Come to find, said friend was effing my wife behind my back. They both attempted to manipulate my emotions so I wouldn't think anything was suspicious, but goddamn, my intuition always had my back. Always trust your gut, folks, even when your head isn't where it should be. When I found evidence of the last affair, as soon as I heard it, I knew it was the end and there would never be anything else there. I found out on a Sunday. First thing Monday, I was scouring the internet for a place to rent. I kept her in the dark for the next month until everything was set. When she got home from work, I handed her my ring and told her I wanted a divorce, and I left. We met and spent the first 7 years of our married life on the West Coast, then moved east. 5 years later, I took a job on the West Coast, but it was middle of the school year, so I went out ahead and lived on my own until everyone could join me. Things hadn't been very good between us for a while, but I hadn't articulated it to her, or even myself beyond vague feelings of dissatisfaction. One weekend, out there on my own, I decided to take a day and drive to one of my favorite towns, a town in which I'd lived long before I knew her, a town we had visited often while married. It was late afternoon, and I was about to head back to my hotel when I realized I could visit a particular beach that had a special meaning to me from my earlier life there. I stopped at a convenience store, grabbed a Grolschleich that I used to drink on that beach, and drove out there. Hiked out to a specific spot I remembered, sat down, popped the beer, and looked out over the ocean. And it hit me that I hadn't done that in over 20 years. Whenever we'd visit the area, I'd suggest stopping down at the beach, but she wasn't interested and would always veto the idea. I'm sure reading this it seems like the tiniest thing, but it was the catalyst for me realizing just how completely dissatisfied I was with our relationship. I think from the time I sat down, I knew it was over within maybe 10 minutes, just sitting there, sipping my beer, looking at the ocean. When we went on family vacation, and I hoped she'd sleep the entire time so I could have fun with our son. My sister said something similar about her ex. He had to go out of town for a business trip, and she found that being a single parent was less work than having him be around. Then he did the deed with one of her friends, and her first thought was, finally, an excuse to kick him out. Feels like vacations are a good litmus test to see if you're both still in love. There's a sports journalist I follow who takes his wife on holiday every year to do a sort of intervention to reassess their relationship and family goals. When I went on my final vacation with my family, parents and brother included, everyone just fought with each other, and it made me realize how dysfunctional we were, and that it was just better for me to move out ASAP. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.